Hey everybody, welcome to Mammoth Interactive's YouTube channel. First of all, I want to thank you for watching this video. And remember that this channel doesn't do Patreon. Instead, we sell our digital courses down below. And every single dollar that we get from the products you buy below goes into making more content. The best way to help out this channel and Mammoth Interactive is to subscribe to Mammoth Interactive's huge library of content. Get thousands of hours and hundreds of courses for a low price down below. We have a monthly option and a yearly option. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the video.
Hello everyone, and welcome to our web scraping course with Python and Beautiful Soup. In this course, we're going to learn the basics of how to scrape a web page with Beautiful Soup. First up, we need to know what is web scraping and why is it such a valuable, important skill. All right, well, web scraping. This is also known as automated web data extraction. So we are going to learn how we can extract data from the web really fast. That's why it's called automated. Let's jump right into talking about some project examples, some practical real-world case scenarios that use web scraping. Web scraping is very commonly used for all sorts of industries. For example, in price comparison sites, where these websites get prices of a different item from across the web and then compare prices. That requires web scraping because you have to be able to automate the process of getting the cost of an item on all different sites and being able to find the best price. So often in retail, web scraping. As well, next up, competitive intelligence. With web scraping, you can get data about your business competitors, such as their pricing, their product offerings, and you can do this really fast. And as well, you can quickly turn it into a data set that you can visualize. So rather than manually looking at your competitors, you can very quickly get a spreadsheet and a visual of exactly what they're doing across different aspects like pricing and offerings. Furthermore, with sentiment analysis, web scraping is very commonly used. This is where you collect reviews or any kind of social media data to analyze how people are feeling about a product or a topic. As well, in real estate, often you'll scrape website data for data analysis or for building machine learning models. So web scraping is very commonly seen in automation and also with data science and machine learning because you need to get data somehow, and oftentimes you need to web scrape in order to collect data. Without data like location or price or the year that a piece of real estate was built, you wouldn't be able to have enough of a data set to actually perform analysis or to build machine learning models. As well, for news aggregation, like websites that gather a bunch of articles from the web and put it onto their one site. Any kind of aggregation across the internet, that needs web scraping. For example, hotels, you can also scrape hotel prices and images and aggregate them all onto one site. That's all using web scraping. So why is web scraping so commonly used and why do you need to know it? Well, web scraping saves huge amounts of time and resources because it's part of automation. It allows you to collect data very quickly for all kinds of projects or to help you determine your business strategy or to see how people are feeling about your latest product. As well, web scraping is a key fundamental part of automation, data science, and machine learning because, again, it allows you to collect data. There are two steps to web scraping. First step is optional, known as crawling. This is where a spider program searches for content on the web by following links and exploring. So that is where you are searching for content. Then the second part is actually the scraper itself. This is where you extract data from web pages. If there's an API available for the web, that's an even better alternative. A lot of websites that don't want you to scrape on them, they'll open up their API instead, their application programming interface, which allows you to do the same thing as scraping, but via their API instead. And that's often a lot more convenient. But with a lot of sites, they don't have an API. And also for a lot of projects that you're building or businesses that you want to start, there won't be APIs available for what you want to do. So to accomplish your specific task, you'll often need to scrape. Let's talk about the general process for web scraping. Step 1, you obtain your web URL and you download that web page. So you actually find the site that you want to scrape. This can also be multiple sites. And you can either use the Python requests library or you can just get the source code for the site. Step 2, let's jump into step 2 of web scraping. You parse downloaded data into a parser, either an HTML parser or the Beautiful Soup library. So you have to actually take that data and be able to parse it or translate it. And this is where the Beautiful Soup library is going to come in handy, and this is what we're going to learn how to do in this course. This is a key step that makes data readable and structured. And then step 3, you have to save the data. You can either store it as a CSV file, a JSON file, or a SQL database. You can also build a pandas data frame. There are many different options for saving your data. This is after it's been parsed. You can save it and put it to use wherever you want. And that is web scraping. Web scraping is a fundamental tool that you should know how to do. It's going to save you a lot of time for different projects, and you'll find it's going to be required very often if you have any project that involves the web. Or even if you're building data science and machine learning models, you'll need to web scrape to collect the data for your unique project. All right, congratulations on this one lecture, and I'll see you in the next lecture. We are going to talk about the few requirements that you'll need to take this course. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we'll talk about the few requirements that you'll need to take the course. Number 1, you need beginner Python coding skills. If you don't have any Python experience, we've included for you a section called Python Language Basics. This is a prerequisite section. So if you do have coding experience, you can skip that section. HTML or XML experience is not required, but would help if you have experience with HTML or XML. But this course is absolutely beginner friendly, so you don't need any experience in web scraping, automation, Python, or HTML. We'll provide everything you need to know. You will need a code editor with Python support. We're going to be using a free online code editor known as Google Colab. So you can research or find Google Colab at colab.research.google.com, and you can immediately start coding on the web, so you won't have to download or install anything. However, you can use a code editor on your computer if you wish, that's fine. It just has to have Python installed. So those are your 2 options for coding along with us. And that is all that you'll need to take this course. Coming up next, we're going to start either our prerequisite section on Python, or you can jump right into the Beautiful Soup section of this course where we will start web scraping. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we are going to create some sample HTML that is going to represent the web page that we will scrape. You could also use a real web page, but for just starting out, for beginners, it's much easier to understand if you have your own sample HTML page. It's much easier to work with. So let's go to this website, jsbin.com. This is a free online code editor. And here we can code in HTML and we can instantly see the output. So it's going to be very convenient for us. All right, here I am going to change my title to site title. Inside of this head tag, this is where we have all of our metadata, like the character set, as well as the viewport width and the title. In the body is where you actually render content itself. So let's put in some sample HTML here inside of the body. And this is what we're going to use to learn how to scrape a web page. So let's start off by putting a heading 1, and this is going to contain the text page title. A heading 1 is the largest of heading types. It signifies that this is the most important piece of information on the page. We can also give this heading 1 a class. Let's give it the class of title. And a class is an attribute that allows you to grab one or more items at a time and then do something with them. For example, with CSS, you could style all the classes that have the class title with a certain shared styling, such as color. With JavaScript, you could grab all of the elements that have the class title. All right, after our heading 1, let's then add a paragraph. And I'm going to put in some text here, like we are Team Mammoth. Our top courses are, and then I will close that paragraph tag. This paragraph tag, I'm going to give a class as well. I'll give it the class of description. And we can already see here on the right-hand side our output, where we have our page title and our description. All right, let's put in 3 links onto this page. We can open a link with an anchor tag, followed by a hyperlink reference. And then we can put in the link of the site that we want to go to. So I'll do https training.mammothinteractive.com/hello coding. All right, so this here represents a site, and any text that is surrounded by an anchor tag, it will link to that page. This is just a sample page, doesn't actually exist, but I'm creating it for reference. Okay, so we can open that anchor tag and close that anchor tag. And then inside or in between the two anchor tags, in between the opening and closing anchor tag, we put in the text that we want to have the link. Here we go, we can see that, hello coding. All right, and I'm also going to give every anchor tag a class. I'm going to give it a class of course. And I'm also going to give every anchor tag an ID. And I'll give this the ID of hello coding. Now, whereas a class can be shared between different or multiple elements, an ID must be unique to every element. So you can't use an ID twice. You can only use a class twice or more. All right, then I'm going to put in a break tag to make sure we have a break in between the paragraph and the link. We could also optionally just take the paragraph and close it immediately outside of our link, just after the text. That's another option. That would give you a bigger break. For my purposes, I'm just going to have break maybe 2. There we go. Just for this quick prototype. Next, let's put in a second link. All right, so I'm going to follow a very similar process to how I created my first link. I'm going to have an anchor tag. The hyperlink reference will link to some web page, training.mammothinteractive.com/Wall Street Coder. So this is a second course. I am going to close that opening tag and create a closing tag as well before I forget. Okay, and in between the anchor tags is where you put the text that you want to be linked. In our case, this will be the name of the course, Wall Street Coder. There we go. As well, I am going to give this anchor tag the same class because it's still a course, but a unique ID of Wall Street Coder. Then I'm also going to put in a break tag in between the two anchor tags to create a space, a line break. And finally, let's put in just one more link. So for that, I'm going to create a break tag, and then I'm going to open up an anchor tag with a hyperlink reference. The link will be to another page, another web page on the internet. Now, this can be any page you want. I'm just using a sample fake page. I'll do machine learning for everybody. And then I will close that opening tag. And remember, you can use any link you want. Then I'm going to create a closing anchor tag, and I'm going to put in some text here, machine learning for everybody, and we'll see that text will have a link. And if you click on any of these, you'll be taken to exactly this page. You'll be taken to each page that the link links to. I'm also going to give this anchor tag a class. It's still a course, and the ID is unique though. It's now a new course. It's now machine learning for everybody. Awesome. Okay, then we can still put in more text because we're still inside of a paragraph tag. So we could say get them now. And I'm just going to add a break above that. Or maybe 2. There we go. Okay, and then we can see that text, get them now. And we can add any more content to this page that we want. We can make it as complex as we like. I'm just going to add in one more paragraph. So I'll put in just one paragraph tag. Let me just zoom out here so we can see. Let's see. Okay, I am going to reset my zoom. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to make another paragraph tag. It will have the same class because remember, a class can be reused. So it will have the class description, just like the previous paragraph tag. And we can just put in 3 dots here and ellipses to represent that this page could have more content. Awesome. And now we have our web page being rendered here in the output. So this is the page that we are going to learn how to scrape. It's going to be a great first example, and it will be very easy to understand because we just built it out ourselves, so we know exactly what the page contains. If you're trying to scrape a larger site that has a lot of code behind it, it's going to get more complex, but it's definitely doable. Scraping any web page is doable. But we're going to start with this simple example. So now that we have this HTML, go ahead and copy all of the code inside of this HTML. So you can hit Command A and then Command C to select all and then copy. Then go back to Google Colab, or go to Google Colab if you haven't been there yet. Google Colab is where we are going to start coding out all of our code. So this is where we're going to build our scraping project. We're going to create a variable called HTML, and we're going to use 3 quotes here, single or double, doesn't matter. This creates a multi-line string, and we're going to paste our HTML into that multi-line string. So what we've done here is we've just taken that website that we just built, and we're now translating it over here to Python. So in Google Colab, we're coding now in Python, and we're taking all that HTML that we wrote and just saving it as a string. So now our website is going to be represented as this string of different tags. And that's because if we want to practice scraping, this is going to be the easiest way to practice if we have it just here in this variable. Otherwise, if we wanted to actually access our real site, we would just have to go to the location of that site to scrape it. But optionally, we can just copy and paste our code here. It's just going to be very easy for us to see what we're doing that way. But the other way is available too. You could just scrape any site via its URL. You don't have to copy and paste all of its code. Awesome. Okay, so make sure you have gone to collab.research.google.com. That is where we are going to be coding all of this. So that is the link to that. Oh, great. So now that we have built out the HTML of our site to represent our website, we can now start using Python and the Beautiful Soup library to start scraping it. Let's start by importing Beautiful Soup. So I'm going to, here, inside of my code cell, I am going to from BS4 import Beautiful Soup. This is going to allow us to use the Beautiful Soup library, which is built for scraping. And note that we're implementing it or importing it from BS4. And because we're using Google Colab, BS4 is already installed and imported. We just have to specify that from there we want to import Beautiful Soup. All right, great. So now we can create a new instance of Beautiful Soup. We'll just make a soup variable and we'll instantiate a Beautiful Soup object. We have to pass in here 2 arguments. First, our HTML, which is our HTML variable. And that's just because this is the technique we're going with. We're copying and pasting the code into a variable. But you could optionally just scrape a site via a link. The second argument we have to pass in is a parser, and ours is going to be html.parser. There are multiple parsers. HTML parser is Python's HTML parser. There's also LXML and XML for parsing XML. And as well, you can do HTML5lib, which is going to be the same as parsing a web browser. All right, and just like that, we have a new instance of soup specifically on our site HTML. We can now print out the contents of our soup. So we can print out here soup. And if I run this code, I'm going to see the results of what's being stored in soup, which is going to be our HTML. Look at that. We have here our dog type HTML, our HTML tag, and just all of the tags. Now, if we want to format this with proper indentation, it's very easy to do so. We just have to add the function prettify to the soup, and I can show you that shortly. So we just take this soup and we add prettify. So we're appending that function to it, and that is going to indent properly all of that code. So here we see our exact website that we just built out. Inside of our body, we have that page title, we have the description full of links, and we have another description. So really, we only have 3 items, just one of them happens to be quite large. All right, and this is going to be the site that we are going to use to scrape. Awesome, so now that we have built the site and we've successfully imported Beautiful Soup, and we've verified that we've been able to create a new soup using our site, we can start scraping. So join me in the next lecture where we will begin our first look at how we can use Beautiful Soup. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we're going to learn how we can select data structures from a web page using Beautiful Soup. So for that, I'm going to make a new code cell, and I'm going to show you how we can select various data structures, starting with the title. So I'm going to print out here soup.title. Then I'll run this cell, and look at this. We get returned a title tag with site title / title. So here, when we call soup.title, we're referring to that title tag. Now, as well, we can then get soup.title.name to actually get the name of the title instead of the tag itself. So I'll run this code now, and we get here title. That's the name of the tag. All right. Next, what if we wanted to grab the parent name? Well, for that, we can grab printing soup.title.parent.name. Now, what do you think this is going to return? Well, we can look at our HTML here. We have our title, and the parent tag of that title tag is the head tag, because that's what contains the title tag. So if I run this cell, I expect to get head, and there it is. I get that tag. All right, next up, let's get another tag. For example, let's get a heading 1. So for that, I can grab my soup.h1, and I can print out that. So let me print soup.h1. That will return to me that heading 1 tag. I can also get the class from that heading 1. For that, I'll print out soup.heading1, and then I am going to open up square brackets, and I'm going to get here the class. And if I run this, then I get title returned. That's because we're getting the class of that heading 1. Let's get a class of something else. Let's get the class of our paragraph. So for that, I'm going to print out soup.p at class, and that gives me description. So this returns the first paragraph it finds and the class of that paragraph, because every tag has a bunch of properties, and each property has the key, which is the name of the property, such as class, and the value returned is going to be the value of the class, which in this case is description. So it's just like accessing an item from a dictionary. We grab that dictionary, the tag, and then we call a key from it. In this case, the key is class, and we return the value of that class, which is description. Next, let's get all of the anchor tags. So for that, I am going to have to select multiple items at once. I am going to print here soup.a. Soup.a only returns for me the first anchor tag. So how do I get all of the anchor tags instead? Because whenever you call one of the tags, it's just going to return for you the first instance. But luckily for us, there's a function find all. So we can call print soup.findAll to return all instances of a class. Just make sure that you pass in here the tag. Yeah, all instances of a tag, I meant. So you can find all of a certain tag. Just make sure the tag is as a string. You could also specify further and only get, for example, anchor tags that have a certain class. You can do that as well. So you can get as specific as you want. But let's start with just getting all of the anchor tags. If I run this cell now, look at that. Now, instead of returning for me just the first anchor tag, instead I get returned this array. And the array contains all 3 anchor tags. Awesome. Okay. Next up, we can also find elements by their ID. So for that, instead of using here paragraph at the certain value of class, this is just going to return me the value of the class, right? But how do I actually find an element by its ID instead? Because we haven't done that before. We found an element by its tag, and we've gotten the value of an element's properties. But how do we find an element by an ID or by a class? Well, for that, I am going to call soup.find, so we can use this find function. And we pass in the property we want to use to find the element. In my case, I'm going to use ID. And let's say I want to find the course with the ID Wall Street Coder. Well, I can paste that as the ID that I'm looking for. And then if I run this code cell, look at that. It returns for me that exact anchor tag. And those are some basic queries that you can do with Beautiful Soup. Awesome. Coming up, we're going to learn even more queries and scraping functions that we can use with Python and Beautiful Soup. So join me in the next lecture where we will continue our project. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our course. In this lecture, we're going to learn how we can extract URLs and text from our page, because these are two tasks that are very commonly done. All right, let's start with grabbing all of the links. So we're going to find all the anchor tags again, but this time we're going to learn how we can extract their links instead of just getting the tags. All right, so for that, I'm going to loop through for every link tag in soup.findAll anchor tags. So when I call soup.findAll A, that returns for me an array. This array of anchor tags, we've seen that before. And therefore, because it's an array, we can loop through all of the elements in that array. Here we're using this for each loop, so for every link tag in soup.findAll A. Each link is being referred to as link tag. What I'm going to do is I'm going to print the link tag.get href. So here I'm using the get function to get the value of href at that link. So every anchor tag is going to have a property of href, and I'm using get to return the value of that property. If I run this cell, look at that, I get my 3 links returned. Awesome, okay. Now, similarly, I could try to use a technique we've used before where we've tried to get the property using the key of the property. So we can try that again. For every link tag in soup.findAll A, we can call print link tag, and we can at that link tag get the value of href. And we get the same results. So we can either use get or we can use this square brackets. It's the same thing. We're just getting an element from an array at a certain property. And this is going to be a lot cleaner to work with because now instead of returning anchor tags, we're returning links. And we can save these links to, for example, a spreadsheet or a database, or we can click on these links and then perform some action by automating our mouse. Those are all things that we could do with Python. All right, awesome. So now we've learned how we can grab links from a page. Very commonly as well, you will want to extract all the text from a page. For example, if we go to our page here, we can see that we have a bunch of tags, right? And inside of the tags, we have text because we have heading 1s with some text, paragraphs with some text, and as well, anchor tags with some text. So how can we grab just that text from the page? Well, luckily for us, Soup has a function to handle just that. If you look in Beautiful Soup's documentation, you can see all of the functions that Beautiful Soup has available for you, and there's quite a lot for you to perform any type of scraping that you can imagine. All right, so let's call print, and we're going to use that function getText. This is a function from Beautiful Soup that allows you to get all of the text on a page. And look at this. We have site title, page title. We are Team Mammoth. Our top courses are Hello Coding, Wall Street Coder, Machine Learning for Everybody, Get Them Now, and then the 3 ellipses. And you'll notice here all of the space around the text that represents the tags that contain that text. and those tags have just become white space now. That doesn't actually change the page at all because it's not going to change the soup. It's just going to only get the text from the soup. So you don't have to worry that you're actually changing the page itself or changing your HTML variable. You're not. You're just getting the text from that variable. And that result is going to be returned with that line. Awesome. And that is how you can get all the text from a page. Very commonly done as well, because it's a lot easier to work with just text than HTML tags. Of course, sometimes you do need the HTML tags because you need different properties of them. For example, you may want to grab all of the links, and for that you need the HTML. You can't just use the text to get links. Also, if you're doing automation, sometimes you may want to get all the elements by a certain class or an element by an ID, and for that you need the HTML. So this get text is very important, but we still do need the actual HTML. All right, and now that we know how to extract URLs and text, join me in the next lecture where we're going to learn how we can work with tags. We'll learn how we can grab tag attributes and how we can change those attributes and much more. So you're going to get a very in-depth look at working with HTML tags. Join me in the next lecture to continue the project.
Hey everyone, thanks for watching this course. If you want to watch the rest of the course, the link is down below. Not only will you get the access to this course, but you'll get access to a lot of other courses in a huge bundle. And it's on sale today. So buy before the sale ends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.